I think you're amazing.
You are too, Henry.
Thank you so much. Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate you what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you. Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you, or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection. God bless you. I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank
you.
God bless you too. Thank you for having us.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Brother Henry and You Show. I am your host, Henry Harris. I hope you're doing good. I hope you're having a great day. I'm having a wonderful day, and I just hope and pray that what I share today will inspire you, will bless you, and challenge you. We live in a time where people don't want to be challenged. We don't want to ask questions or anything like that. But how many know that that's how we grow, is by asking questions? We have an amazing subject for you today, and that subject is your church is a cult if. Your church is a cult if. Now, when you put both of those words together, church and cult, you would think to yourself like those words shouldn't even be existing together. But the reality of it is that some of us are part of a church that has cultish-like behavior. And the thing is that we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to elaborate on it. We want to sweep it under the rug. But the reality of it is that we have to talk about it. That's the only way healing can come about. So today's message will actually help you to identify if your church is cultish. It will be able to help you identify some abusive patterns. It will help you to identify the harm and toxicity that the church may bring. Now, am I saying the church as a whole is this way? No. I'm pretty sure there's some healthy ministries and churches out there, but however, there may be some places out there that may not be so healthy. There may be some places out there that may not be so good. And that's what I want to come to talk to you about today. So, to those that's watching, you may be saying, well, what is a cult? A cult is a system of religious venerations and devotions directed towards a particular figure or object. A cult is pretty much a affiliation, is pretty much a group or a clique or a sect, so to speak. In a lot of churches, that's exactly what it is. It's just a cult. It's just a clique. It's just an affiliation of people that get together, worship or whatever they do in there. I've been in church all my life pretty much. I kind of know the system and how it works. But that's pretty much what a cult is. And a cult is not just that. It could be a variety. The cult, it could be a variety of things. So basically a cult is a dangerous organization that's their motives is to manipulate and harm its members. And I know a lot of people say, well, and I've heard people say this too, well, somebody said this the other day, I've been a Christian for 40 years and I've never seen this happen. Well, you can't discredit my experience because I've seen it happen. But you hear people say it all the time that because you haven't experienced it, it puts you in a position of thinking that now I can discredit your experience because you haven't been through it or something that you haven't seen. That doesn't mean that it's not true for me or to those who have been part of a church that's cultish. But there are a lot of ministries that are that way. Their objective and motive and goal is to harm and to hurt. And sometimes they do it unknowingly. And that simply means that sometimes they don't know that they're hurting people. That word tradition just simply means to be traded down. So sometimes we don't know the harm that we're causing towards people or to people, even in a ministry setting. It could be some of the beliefs you believe that could be toxic or whatnot, but sometimes we don't know because we don't question those things. We don't talk about those things, and that can make it cultish. So, what comes to your mind when you think of a cult? What comes to my mind is, and I'm talking about in the natural sense, you think about people like Charles Mason, Jim Jones, you know some of the names, David Koresh, all these powerful figures who've used their power and influence to hurt people, to control. That's the word, to control people. So here's the thing. I guess I would say I wouldn't go as far as comparing the church to these horrible cult leaders. I'm not doing that at all. But at the same time, some churches have adapted to cult-like behaviors to keep people under their power, influence, and control. So today you will discover if your church is a cult, and at the same time identifying some abusive patterns and behavior. And you may be like, oh, I've been through that before. And you may hear some stuff now. I'm only gonna give a few, but you may hear some stuff now and be like, I'm actually going through that. I'm actually experiencing that. Wow. And if that's so, you need to pack your bags and leave that ministry, because that's not healthy for you at all, my friend. That's not healthy for you at all. So, number one, your church is a cult if your pastor demands you to never fellowship outside of their ministry or church. Well, Brother Henry, how do you know that? Because I've lived it. I've been part of a ministry that did that, where they call it a spiritual covering. And when you're under a spiritual covering, they teach that you don't, they kind of, not all of them, but sometimes they discourage fellowship outside of your little bubble, or outside of your ministry, or outside of your church. And the pastor will stand up and tell you, you are not allowed to go to that ministry over there. You're not allowed to go see this group of people. You're not allowed to go do this. And I know some of you are laughing because you're thinking about, he's saying you're not allowed. It's connected with control. That's cultish. If your pastor has instilled that much fear into you, where you feel like every Sunday morning you have to be at his church, maybe God is calling you somewhere else. Or maybe God is calling you to do your own ministry or do your own thing. They will tell you, no, you're not. Somebody will even scare you to the point of telling you that you're not even prepared. You're not even ready. So you need to sit down until I think you're ready. You're part of a cult if your pastor is teaching that. Number two, everyone has to, here go one. Everyone has to believe the same thing. How many churches do that? There ain't nobody in that church that has free thought. Free thought. Most churches have what they call thought control. What would it look like if, I'm trying to see how to word this. What would it look like if everybody in the church believed the same thing? And I say that's dangerous because what if you got that one person in there that may not subscribe to that belief? For example, traditionally many churches believe in hell. But what if I stand up, Henry Harrison, say in Bible study, you know what, I see what you're saying. I know this is something that's been traditionally taught, but I'm not there and I don't believe it. Oh boy, you think you don't believe in hell, you're going to catch hell. You may even be kicked out. You may be unfriended. I've had it happen to me. When you're vocal about what you do not believe to the Christian community, they will get rid of you. They don't want to talk to you anymore. They don't want to deal with you anymore because you're going against what's popular. So I think it's dangerous in the sense when everybody believes the same thing. Now, there are some universal truths that I think it's fine that we all believe that God is love. I think that's great. We all believe that the grass is green. That's a universal truth. That's a good thing. But there are some things that's toxic and that's unhealthy for us spiritually that you may come against. And it won't go over well with the church when you come against it. So it's all about thought control. Everybody has to believe the same thing. Everybody has to do it the same way. And we do this because this is the way we've been doing it for years. This is the way it's always been, and it's not going to change. A lot of ministries operate that way. A lot of ministries do that. If you're a part of a church that do that, your church may be a cult. Number three, they disfellowship with you and cut all forms of communication off with you. I had a lady tell me the other day, she said how she was part of a ministry for over 15, 16 years. And she was good friends with some people in there. And she says from time to time, she still lives in the same city where these people live at. She said from time to time that she'll run into them. And you know what they'll do? They'll turn and go the opposite direction. How is that Christ-like? And how is that a good model for the church? That because you disagreed with something that they said, or you stood out and against what they said, or whatever the case may be, and you feel like that it's at your best interest that you leave and that you not fellowship with them, even when they're out in public. You act like you don't know them when you see them at the grocery store. But at one time, when y'all believed everything, when they were going to your church, when they was part of your affiliation, a part of your clique, a part of your little group, we love you, brother. We love you, sister. We'll never change. And you see this over time, that actually it does change. I would not be part of a church that operates that way. I would not be a part of a system that loves me only because of where I'm at theologically. I don't think that's true love. And some Christians today, and I'm not bashing, some Christians only love you because you agree with everything that they say, or you agree with everything that they do. And once you step outside of that, they disfellowship with you. They don't want to talk to you anymore. They don't want to deal with you anymore. I think that's sad. Number 4, some churches have a us versus them mentality. Some churches cultivate an us versus them mentality, instilling a belief that their group or their church possesses the truth, while outsiders are deemed as misguided and deceived. And we see this happening a lot too, even on Facebook. You say something that's not popular, you say something that goes against what they think the Bible says, or this church think they got the truth and this one doesn't, and this brother has a handle of the truth and this one don't. You're a part of a cult. I hate to tell you that. You can call it a church or whatever you want to call it. You're a part of a cult if you're a part of a ministry that way, because this creates a divisive mentality as the cult leader manipulates the people who follow him to never question it, because by doing so can be perceived as a spiritual failure and betrayal to him. You don't question it. You go along with it. You accept it at face value. You dare not question it. This is what the Bible says. They use the Bible to manipulate and to hurt people and to harm people, to do what they want you to do. That's a cult. That's a cult. Number 5, emotional manipulative giving. There are a lot of people today in religious circles that give not out of love, not out of kindness, not out of goodness, but their leaders emotionally manipulates them to tithe, you're probably familiar with that, or to give their money and time and resources, which is typically followed by endless threats such as God will get your money one way or another. God, if you don't give God his 10%, he's gonna take it. He's gonna put you on the hospital bed. He'll get it in a hospital bill. If you don't give God his, he's gonna, Malachi said it, God's gonna curse you with a curse. This has become the motivation why people give. And you should not do that. And I think in my heart that is a shame that pastors stand up all the time, and it's great that you use the scriptures, but when you say such things as you're going to be cursed and God is going to come after you, those are just fear tactics to get people to do what you want them to do. So we give out of emotions because we're afraid. I better give or else God's going to be upset. I better give or he's going to take it in a hospital bill. So fear has become our motivation in giving instead of giving out of generosity. If you're a part of a ministry that's doing that, your ministry is a cult. Number 6, you are afraid to challenge or question the pastor. This kind of goes with a little of what I just said earlier. You are afraid to challenge the pastor. So many will never question or challenge their pastor, because you know why they won't do that? Because they feel like to challenge the pastor is to challenge and question God himself. It's almost like God is here and your pastor is here. Well, pastor, you said something that I don't really agree with. They'll tell you, well, if you don't agree with me, you're not agreeing with God. It's manipulation at best. And it's time for us to wake up. This is 2024. It's time for us to wake up. What's that old saying I used to hear a long time ago? Wake up and smell the coffee. It's time for you to wake up and smell the coffee. You've been sleeping way too long. Way too long. And the last one is your former church or Christian friends, they ghost you. Ghosting is the practice of ending a relationship, and they could be in any form, with someone, suddenly withdrawing from them. They typically go the other way, ignore you because you're no longer part of their group. I said this earlier, I said it again. None of this embodies who Christ was and what he was when he was on the earth. This is cultish-like behavior. And this is all, I only named like 6 or 7. I'm sure there's more. As a matter of fact, as we go to a close, why don't you put it right down here in the comment section? Your church is a cult if, and share your experience, share your journey. Tell me some things you've experienced in your church world. Whether you go to church or maybe you don't go anymore, just share about your past experiences. Let's have a respectful dialogue about this. Thank you for watching. Make sure you connect with us today on the Brother Henry and You Show, /Facebook.com. Also connect with us on YouTube.com /Henry Harris 100. May God bless you. I hope you have an amazing week. Bye-bye.
Well, Perry, you are awesome.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, and I appreciate you what you're doing too, buddy.
Well, thank you.
Because if you allow the world to define you, if you allow friends to define you, if you allow your spouse to define you or anybody to define you outside of how God sees you, that does open the door to rejection.
God bless you. I hope y'all have an amazing day.
Thank you, Brother Henry.
Thank
God bless
you.
you too. Thank you for having us.